Hey DJ, it's Christmas time. We're here to bring you another great episode. We got all that peace and joy in our hearts. We're going to talk about one of our favorite Christmas movies. But first, I'm going to get this hat off. It's hurting my head. I bought it too small. Ugh. Ugh. Oh, I feel so much better.
Merry Christmas.
And a Happy New Year. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Men Who Watch Movies. My name is Alec.
And my name's DJ, the Movie Man Wagner, also known as the COE of the Men Who Watch Movies. And with me is the Vice President of the Men Who Watch Movies. Would you please give a big Movie Man welcome to Alec Castro-Home?
Oh, yeah. You almost forgot my name, didn't you? I'm just joking. We have another great episode for you today. We're talking about one of our favorite Christmas movies, Ernest Saves Christmas. I know we talked about Ernest before, but who cares? I like Ernest. We've talked about Ernest Scared Stupid during Halloween, and now we're bringing you another great Ernest flick.
Yep.
He's one of our favorites. We're going to talk about all the Ernest movies eventually. We're going to shove them down your throat until you love them as much as we do, damn it. But first, before we get into all that, we're going to do what we do, and we're going to get down to some business, okay?
Let's get down to the nitty-gritty.
We're going to talk about this week in...
Movie news!
Cue that intro. All right. This week in movie news, a first bit of movie news. We're talking Avatar, not the Airbender, but the Way of Water. Have you seen any of the Avatar movies?
I've seen the first one.
Oh, you have? I haven't seen any of them, and I tried watching the first one. I fell asleep. Oh, no. I can hear the boos. I feel like Elon Musk, although he deserved those boos, so I don't deserve those boos. It's not that I'm hating. That's what happened. I fell asleep.
We're the men who watch movies.
And sometimes
the best movie critics ever. And we feel like celebrities.
Sure. But anywho, moving along. Avatar. I eventually do want to watch the Avatar movies. I'll got to catch up. Of course, Avatar is on Disney Plus, and eventually, I want to check out Avatar: Way of Water when it comes on streaming as well. But through my lack of viewing, it's still doing great. Of course, it's making a lot of money. I've heard a lot of great things. It's earned $500 million so far. I mean, that's great. As far as this, as we're recording this podcast, it's earned $500 million, and it's has the second highest single day Wednesday gross of the entire year. That's amazing. With a domestic total of $182.9 million and an international gross of $426.8 million. It's currently at $609.7 million. It's only going to go up from there. Of course, you got the holiday weekend coming up, man. People can want to go see movies, right?
Yep.
I mean, you just saw a movie today. What movie did you see today?
I saw Babylon.
Ooh. Was it good? I heard some mixed reviews.
Oh, it was very, very good. It has a lot of good actors, Margot Robbie.
And the great
Brad
thespian,
Pitt.
Tobey Maguire.
Yep.
He looks so creepy in that trailer.
Oh, yeah. Just very noirish, very LA Confidential-ish, very different, very noir, very some of that vaudeville stuff.
I gotta check that out. I like noir. I like vaudeville stuff. Is it like a period piece?
Pretty much, actually. They shot it word for word. It's like they basically they just took it to a different era. But the shooting areas of the movie. Fantastic. The director,
Oh, yeah.
fantastic.
Nice. I got to check that out. Back to our topic at hand. Avatar. Excuse me. Avatar, although it's doing very well, James Cameron himself has said it's going to have to be like the highest grossing movie of all time to break even. He said it's going to have to pass like $2 billion. But I mean, it's going to get there eventually, don't you think?
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah, not only through ticket sales, but you also got like, I want to say home video release. This sounds so old school though. You have like, DVD sales, Blu-ray sales, streaming, revenue, and of course merchandising. You got, they're probably going to make Avatar the flamethrower or some shit. So they're going to make their money back. It might not be as fast as they hoped for, but it's going to get there. And of course, they're probably going to do a re-release. That's how the first Avatar got, to be the #1 grossing movie of all time. So it'll get there eventually, but it's only a waiting game, pretty much. Next bit of movie news. It's going to set a little bit of legal precedent for movies going forward. It has to do with trailers. I'm sure you've seen trailers where there's scenes in there that look epic, but you go to watch it and it's not in the movie. I'm sure you've experienced this, right?
Oh yeah, I've seen trailers of the movies and it's so awesome and it's fantastic. And
then you go watch the movie.
Different.
Yeah, it's not there. It's like Avengers comes to mind. Like, you remember there's that scene where Hulk in Avengers Infinity War is running with the team in Wakanda. That shit didn't exist. Hulk was in the Hulkbuster suit the whole time. They just totally changed it up. And I get they're trying to do it to, keep spoilers and whatnot, but it just blatant false advertising, man. But apparently some people are taking legal action against shit like that. So there's these two movie viewers that rented the movie yesterday. It's a movie that came out in I think 2019 about the Beatles. And one day this guy wakes up and the Beatles don't exist. And but he remembers their music and he uses it to make some money and become famous. And apparently Ana de Armas was supposed to be in the movie. There was a scene of her in the trailer. These two people go and rent it on streaming thinking, hey, I like Ana de Armas, want to watch this movie. Lo and behold, she's not in it. And so they brought a lawsuit to Universal for $5 million. And apparently they're going forward with it. The Universal thought they're going to drop it. But it looks like the lawsuit is going to happen. So it could set a precedent for studios going forth with saying that, misleading people with trailers will be against the law. What do you think? I think that's a good precedent to set. I don't want to be lied to.
Yeah, so it sets a very good precedent, I might add. Yeah.
I don't think anyone wants to be lied to. That's bullshit. I want to see, if you're worried about showing spoilers, just cut a trailer that doesn't, that gives you a sense of the feel without divulging in anything, Be creative. Don't add shit that's not there just to keep a secret or some shit. And in the case of yesterday, that was just blatantly lying. She wasn't in the movie anymore, and they weren't keeping a secret. They were literally just not divulging that this actress was cut from the movie, which I could totally see. I could see the point of suing over something like that. So we'll see. We'll see what kind of precedent this has in the future. I keep saying the word precedent. It sounds educated. Anywho, moving on. What do you think about the National Treasure movies? Do you like them?
It's awesome. This Nicolas Cage.
Oh yeah,
Justin Bartha, Harvey Keitel.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage. Anything with Nicolas Cage, I think he's having a renaissance at the moment. Kind of like how what's his name? They're from Bill and Ted. I'm drawing a blank right now.
Keanu Reeves?
Keanu. How could I forget you? Kind of like Keanu had, I think they're having, we're in the midst of a Nicolas Cage renaissance and a Brendan Fraser renaissance at that.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for the movie Whale with Brendan Fraser.
That looks good.
Kind of looks a little different because, you see Brendan Fraser as he was back then in the Mummy movies. Nowadays, he disappeared. He looked all pale, bald, and all of a sudden, and then all of a sudden,
in the Whale, they added weight to him. He's not really that heavy, but the man's living his life. Leave him alone. Anyway, we're talking about Nicolas Cage. So apparently, there's still plans for another National Treasure movie. Of course, they got a Disney Plus series going on. But Jerry Bruckheimer says that they're going to work on a third movie with Nicolas Cage coming down the line. That's still in the works. So for any National Treasure fans out there, and get ready for some more, man. We're gonna bring back Nicolas Cage. It'd be great. He's always a fun time. Whenever he pops up on screen, he always gives it his all, no matter what it is. You're gonna have a good time, right?
Yep.
Next bit of movie news: Diego Luna. Apparently, there's some rumors going around that he's going to be the next Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four. But he dispelled those rumors, saying that he's too busy. He's been working on a lot of stuff. He said he's heard the rumors, and he doesn't even know how he gets involved in stuff like that. But he says, the only thing I can tell you is that for the next 2 years, I'm busy. He said, in 2 years, we'll see if what I want to do is even film, because he's been so busy with doing like so much that he's like not even sure if he wants to do films. He might move on to some other kind of entertainment. So he's pretty much saying that, no, I'm not Mr. Fantastic, but we'll see. We haven't heard anything from any kind of casting rumors or whatnot, aside from all that stuff about John Krasinski. Of course, he popped up in Multiverse of Madness, but they're saying that he's probably not going to be Mr. Fantastic going forward. What do you think? Do you want him to come back?
Yes, he's a good actor, and Emily Blunt.
Yeah.
It should be Sue Storm and Mr. Fantastic with John Krasinski.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if he comes back, but if they replace him, I'm not going to be heartbroken.
I'm not either.
I'm just going to be excited to see anything, man. Like they haven't been giving us much.
Excited.
What do we got coming up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? We got the Marvels. That looks interesting. I did like Miss Marvel a lot. And then
the Echo TV series is coming up.
Oh yeah, Echo. We got Daredevil Reborn or something like that, right?
Daredevil Born Again with 18 episodes.
Yeah. And then
of course, it might take place during the Avengers pre-post day, I guess. I'm not sure, but maybe. But they have some great storylines about it. So
and then
the reason why they made 18 episodes, because they want to give some big arc about Daredevil.
Oh, yeah.
Kingpin and whatnot.
I'm just glad to see them back. They were talking about the tone of the new Daredevil series. They say it's still going to be dark, but it's going to be a little more kid-friendly, like a little less gory. I bet a bunch of people who are fans of the Netflix series are losing their shit. Honestly, I don't care too much. Obviously, I care enough to be like, I don't want them to do these characters wrong, but I've been enjoying a lot of the stuff on Disney Plus. A lot of people say Disney Plus ruined the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's not that serious, guys.
It's not that true.
It's not. Obviously, it's not like the best content in the world, but it's fun, and that's all I care about. And I've been enjoying it, and that's all I have to say about that. All right. Let's move on to our next bit of movie news. Let's move to the DC universe. I haven't really been able to talk about what the crazy stuff going on at DC. Last time I believed we did a podcast, I mentioned that Henry Cavill was back as Superman, but that's not true no more. He is gone. James Gunn and company are just wiping the slate clean. So Henry Cavill gone. We got freaking Wonder Woman Gal Gadot gone. We got the new Aquaman movie coming out soon. But after that, he's gone. The Flash, Ezra Miller, he should have been gone a long time ago. But now, after this new Flash movie coming out, he's gone. They're wiping everything, man. Of course, Ben Affleck was gone a long time ago. He's going to pop up in the new Flash movie. But they're wiping everything, man. Even Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam, which I had reported in a previous episode that it did great, apparently didn't do so great. There was even some controversy about The Rock faking some of the numbers, right? He was reporting false numbers, saying it was doing better than it was. I don't know. But it did bad enough to where they're saying, nope. I think this is one of the things that convinced them to wipe the slate clean, because Dwayne Johnson was saying he was going to be the saving grace of the DC universe, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he was going to be the new head of everything, and he was touting that Black Adam was going to revitalize everything, and there's going to be a shift in the dynamic and whatnot. But it just didn't resonate enough with fans, and now they're wiping everything. There was a bit of uncertainty about the way The Rock felt about it. He started unfollowing some of the accounts that were at DC, but then he came out with a statement, kind of setting the record straight. Yeah, it's a pretty long note, but he's gonna summarize it. He's basically saying that yeah, I'm breaking my silence, addressing the fans, saying that he spoke with James Gunn and that Black Adam is not going to be going forward in the new chapter of DC Universe, but he's still talking with him. And he said, however, DC and $7, which is his production film, has agreed to continue exploring the most valuable ways they can bring Black Adam to the future of the DC multiverse. So for all we know, they might bring him back in some iteration, like they're doing with.
Well, they might. No, it's art imitates life, and life imitates art.
Yeah, I love that saying. You know how like they did with Spider-Man No Way Home, they brought back Toby, and then of course they brought back Charles Xavier. They're bringing back what's his face, Logan,
Hugh Jackman,
Hugh Jackman,
the muscle actor.
For all we know, in the future of DC, they might do some kind of multiverse shit where they bring back Henry Cavill eventually and Dwayne Johnson, and they'll have their little battle like they were supposed to. So that might be exciting. They could do something like that in the future. But for now, they're focused on wiping the slate clean. What do you think? Do you think that's a good idea to wipe the slate clean?
Yep. Yeah, just to wipe the slate clean and give everything a fresh start because it's going to be a new year soon.
So fresh
2023.
And so clean.
But we're still in the year of 2022, so let's be positive,
we're almost there. We're almost at the end of the year. And hopefully next year is a great year. James Gunn has responded to The Rock's post, saying that I love The Rock, and I'm always excited to see what him and $7 is going to do next, and he can't wait to collaborate soon. So there's a lot of there's still good blood there. Everything's all good in the hood. Can't wait to see what they do with the DC universe because it's about time that they did justice to the Justice League. Moving on. Our last bit of movie news. It's a little sad bit of movie news. We're announcing the death of Netflix password sharing. Oh, no. What do you think about that?
Random. But
I know I tricked you there. You thought I was going to say a celebrity passed away. That's bad news for me because I'm a cheapskate and I'm using someone else's password. But
sharing is caring.
Yeah, they even posted that. Like Netflix posted that like a while back, and now they're going back on their words, the bastards. They want to be profitable. Anyway, yeah, I mean they've been going downhill for a while now, so they're seeing this as a way to increase revenue. And I guess it makes sense. Like, I wonder if they're going to do like a Spotify kind of thing. Spotify, like if you have an account, like a basic paid account, you can only use it on one device, and if you try using it on another device, the previous device you were using it on, it just stops playing and only plays on the current device that you're watching or listening on or whatever. So they could do something like that, and then if you want to listen or watch on multiple devices, you have to pay more, which is I think what they're doing. And of course they're doing like a commercial tier that's cheaper, but they have commercial. I don't know. So, I don't know. Netflix hasn't been as good as it used to be. So they need to really step it up. The only really thing I could think of that's exciting on there is like Stranger Things, but they're on their final season. And then I've just been watching Seinfeld on repeat, pretty much.
Dun, da, 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 da. Da, da, da.
Anyway, that's our last bit of movie news.
Yep.
Now it's time to get on to the show. So, Ernest Saves Christmas. What would you rank this Ernest movie in the Ernest P. Worrell verse?
Let's see.
Would you rate it? Let's say in terms of like first place, second place, third place. Would you rate it like number one being the best, or would you let's say out of 5, or would you rate it number 5?
I would rate it number.
Remember, number 1 would be the best. So what would you rate? You would say it's like your favorite Ernest movie.
Yep. Thumbs up
I would say so too. And like it's almost tied for me with Ernest Scared Stupid, but this one I almost think it takes the cake, man. It's just feel good. And it's just a wonderful movie to watch during Christmas time. Even John Cherry, the director, he said that it was his. He thought it was the best Ernest movie, so he would agree with your assessment of being number one. And it's the highest grossing Ernest movie, and it was actually the only Ernest movie to be released overseas, which probably contributed to it being financially successful. And it was the first movie to be filmed at Disney/MGM Studios. What do you think about that?
Awesome.
That's great. A lot of trivia. I got a lot of trivia on this episode. I did my homework, okay? Trying to keep things interesting, man. So the movie starts with some nice montage. You got a scene with all different kinds of images of Santa Claus with some classic Christmas music, man. You got Deck the Halls, Oh Christmas Tree. It's like kind of choir singing. Has a lot of good like Christmas. It gets you in the real Christmas mood. Am I right about that?
Yep.
With that intro, just right off the bat, and then it uses like the classic like Coca-Cola Santa, and it uses like I think some like Norman Rockwell stuff, a lot of just classic Santa imagery to get ready for the Santa plot, because this whole plot revolves around Santa Claus and finding the new successor of the Santa throne. Isn't that right?
Yep.
Definitely good. And a lot of the plot too reminds me. It has like a lot of Miracle on 34th Street vibes. Would you say?
Oh yeah, very very much.
Which it makes it that much more wholesome because it gives you the vibes of like a classic Christmas movie like that, with a new twist, with an earnest twist. So the movie starts out, we see Santa flying into Orlando. It's the 23rd of December. He's talking with this business guy. It's funny too because like he doesn't tell the guy that he's Santa Claus, but he just he's just talking with him, business and whatnot. He thinks he's just another business guy. And then he's like, "Yeah, have you been in Orlando before?" He's like, "Yeah, I usually come once a year, but I usually come in a different way." Kind of jokingly referring to the fact that he comes in on a sleigh every year, as Santa Claus delivering presents. I thought that was funny, right? And then he's talking with the guy, and he keeps dropping like a little bit of like kind of Santa hints almost, because if you're talking to him like you wouldn't really know that he's talking about his job as Santa Claus, but since we're in on it, we know that it's kind of like a little play on words and whatnot, because there's one point where he's talking about I don't think I have the magic for another trip this year. That's why he's thinking about passing on the torch, because the magic is dying out. We know literally he's talking about magic, like his Santa Claus magic. But the business guy thinks he's talking in metaphors and whatnot, because he's like, oh yeah, I feel the same way every time they send me to Pittsburgh on a business trip and stuff. So I think it's funny, that little conversation we have, because we were in the know, that this guy's Santa Claus, but the other guy has no clue. It's pretty hilarious. And then Santa's like, I'm having trouble remembering who's naughty, who's nice, who asked for the toy truck, and who wanted the bicycle. And the guy's like, sounds like a database problem. I thought that was a little funny exchange, right?
Yep. And fun fact, the guy that Santa was talking to, he was in The Punisher.
Oh, really? And then, well, let's talk about who Santa was.
Douglas Seal from Aladdin.
Yeah, he played the Sultan. I didn't know that at first, but then I was like, that voice sounds familiar. And then, I looked it up one day, and I was like, oh shoot, that's where I remember that voice from. So he plays the Sultan on Aladdin, and he's done other character work as well. I think he's done other voices as well too. He has a very memorable voice. I think that makes him perfect for Santa, which is funny because he's been in a Disney movie with Aladdin, and then Jim Varney, he plays Ernest. He's been in Toy Story, so they both done Disney voice acting. And then this movie is produced by Disney, so it ties in, like a Marvel universe or some shit.
It makes sense.
It definitely, and then I like the little details they put in there. Like every time Santa walks by a kid, they get like this premonition. They know like something special is happening, because you hear like a little twinkle of like this magic bell sound, and they can't help but stare at him and follow him around, because they know in their heart of hearts that this is a magical man. This is Santa Claus. Even if they don't know it right away, they know something special about him. I thought that was kind of a little fun little thing. Although he gives a wink to one of the kids. I feel like if I was a parent, I'd be creeped the fuck out. I'd be like, get the fuck away. But not knowing he's Santa Claus, because Santa Claus of course, in the logic of this movie, parents, believe that Santa Claus is just fake, like in the real world, but there really is a Santa Claus walking around. And this is the guy. He's looking for someone to take over.
Joe Carruthers himself.
Oh, yeah. And then next we meet Ernest. He's a guy. He's a cab driver. He's driving a guy to the airport. His cab number is number 69, which is obviously a little bit of a dirty joke. I don't know how they snuck that into a Disney-produced movie, but it's there. It doesn't really fit in an Ernest movie, but oh well. Yeah, I thought that was a little bit of a weird detail that they went with in the movie.
69, dudes!
But yeah, that's his cab number, and he's driving this guy to the airport. He's like the sweatiest guy in the world. I don't know why they picked him, but
I have no idea. But he is sweaty as a.
He looks like a mannequin man, and he's like very stiff. And this is before the whole gag with him like freezing and everything. But he just really like his expressions are very stiff, and he looks like he's about to throw up. He's all sweaty. I don't know what's wrong with that guy. Anywho, I hope he was okay. Anyway, he's driving this guy to the airport, and then Ernest is singing his rendition of "Oh Christmas Tree."
Oh, Christmas tree. Oh, Christmas tree. Oh, Christmas tree. Oh, Christmas tree.
Oh, Christmas tree. Oh, Christmas tree. Oh,
I like he
Christmas
snaps
tree.
too.
Oh, Christmas tree.
He just digging it. Like the only lyrics are "Oh Christmas Tree," and I love singing that version. And but yeah, so the guy, he's not having it. He's like, "Hey, come on, I'm late. You got to hurry up, buddy. I got to get to the airport." And then Ernest, he just goes full batshit crazy. He references to the fact that he was like a race car driver at some point, which I would love to see that movie, like Ernest at the races or some shit.
I have an almost supernatural feel for the road beneath my tires. Thrill driver!
Where he's like a NASCAR driver. Or
They can
something.
de-age Jim Varney and do that racing car movie. Yeah, it would be really, really good.
That would have been badass to see him. But he refers to himself as Ernest P. Worrell, the Screaming Demon. And so he just goes fucking nuts. He hauls ass. He's like zipping in and out of traffic. The guy, the passenger's so scared that he literally gets petrified. Like he can't move. He's stuck. Like frozen in time. Like that's what I love about these movies. They're like live action cartoons, like a Looney Tune or some shit. And then the guy, he's so stiff that he falls out of the car, and then Ernest has to like physically pick him up. He's like frozen because he's so scared about Ernest was driving, and then he throws him back in the car, drives him back to the. He drives him back to the airport, and then we see Santa. He's checking in with the airport security, showing him the passport. And of course, his passport has him in full Santa getup. And the guy's just like, you can't be serious. And then he looks around at the rest of the people. They're in their various, outfits.
Hare Krishna outfits.
Yeah, from whatever region they're from. And then he sees like these people in these hippy dippy outfits with like, there's like this white guy with dreads. And he sees all kinds of people in different outfits, and he just says to himself, "I hate my job," and then he lets him through, and then he's like, "Thanks, Skippy." And then that's funny. I like there's another little detail about Santa. He remembers everyone's name, and so
And that sound effect of that twinkle sound.
yeah,
Good.
because it's like magical, and then the guy's like freaked out because how did he know my childhood name? He didn't say that, but like you can see he's like, how does he know my childhood name? I thought that was funny. I like those little details they put in there. And Ernest, he gets the guy to the airport, but he's still frozen. He's still petrified. He tries helping him into the airport, but he accidentally lands on the baggage carousel, and he gets sucked up into the conveyor belt. And then the guy, he tries taking out the guy's luggage, and it rips, and all the clothing is flying everywhere. He just like starts kicking stuff underneath the cab. Airport security's chasing after him because he's driving recklessly, and he's causing accidents and stuff, and he runs away, and then that's where he runs into Santa Claus, and so he gives him a ride just so he can get the fuck out of the airport. But yeah, I thought that was hilarious.
And he wears those glasses, those 3D glasses.
Oh yeah, because again with the detail, I love the little details. So it's like Santa is not used to going around, in the daytime, like so he's not used to the bright sun of Florida, because he usually when he's in Florida, it's at nighttime, flying around on his sleigh and whatnot. So he's asking Ernest for some sunglasses, but all he has is some 3D glasses. And so he gives them to them. He looks like a hip cat in the back with his 3D specs, man. And then Ernest is like, oh, I bet you get this all the time, but you know who you look like?
Santa Claus?
I guess you hear that a lot, huh?
Oh, yes, but then it's to be expected.
Because you look like him?
Because I am him.
Because you am him.
What do you think so far?
Best movie ever.
Oh, definitely. Well, I don't know best movie of all time, but definitely one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time. Definitely the best Ernest movie of all time. Later we see these characters, Chuck and Bobby, at the airport. They're hilarious. They're brothers. They're actually also, because for those that don't know, Ernest P. Worrell, the character, he's actually a character created to for advertisements. He would advertise stuff, and the other two characters in this movie, Chuck and Bobby, that work at the airport, they were also created by the same ad agency responsible for Ernest P. Worrell. So that's a neat little tidbit of information there. They're pretty hilarious. So basically they're in charge of like getting like all the shipments and stuff onto the planes and off the planes and whatnot. And Chuck is saying that, hey, if it wasn't for us, nothing would get done around this airport. And then Bobby, he's like waving in. They're trying to get one of the crates off the truck and accidentally falls on him. And again, with that Looney Tune logic, he gets crushed like Wile E. Coyote or some shit. And then later you see Chuck driving away with Bobby like plastered to the back of the crate. That was pretty funny. Did you like that?
Oh yeah, it was very, very funny. Very slapstick comedy, but very, very funny, ladies and gentlemen.
And later on, when Ernest is driving Santa, he sees a truck with some Christmas trees on there. He makes the comment. He's like, you can keep your channel number 5, but just give me some of that old lonesome pine. He loves the smell of Christmas trees. And the truck swerves or something, and it drops a Christmas tree, and he goes freaking nuts trying to grab the Christmas tree. He stops in the middle of traffic, causing some more accidents and stuff. He's so reckless. But yeah, he gets the Christmas tree, throws it in the car, and he breaks the windows and shit. And then he just really wanted that tree. Santa is like, I could take it that you really need a tree. And he's like, no, I got one already, but I've got a friend who could use it. Besides, it's a shame for it to be all alone on Christmas. And Santa's very impressed. He's like, oh, it's nice to see someone who's passionate about Christmas. And then it's revealed that Ernest, he really had a strong affinity for Christmas. He felt like it was a holiday just for him. He felt very special on Christmas. And he has that childlike love of Christmas still. And then later we cut back to Chuck and Bobby. They have the crate. They're trying to figure out what the heck the crate says. They're debating on whether one of the letters in the name is an M or a V. They keep going back and forth. What do they remember?
MV. Hold for Helper Elms.
Yeah, they think it says Helper Elms, and then
I think it's Amish or Quaker.
Yeah, they think it's like some Amish or Quaker name or something like that. They don't know what to make of it. But then the box starts shaking, and then Chuck always does this thing when he's scared. Like he wags his eyes back and forth, like, "Oh my god!" And then put like a little cartoon sound effect in there. Pretty wacky stuff, man. And then Santa later, we cut back to Santa and Ernest. Santa asks Ernest if he's heard of Joe Carruthers from Uncle Joey's Treehouse. He's like a TV host for kids. And then Ernest is like, yeah. And then he starts singing the theme song. It's a little bit of world building,
They never get old. They always seem new. Those three little words, please and thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he reveals that he believes that Joe Carruthers would make the perfect Santa, and he's going to ask him if he would take over the reins. And it's revealed, that he believes he has the spirit because, he does the children's program. And Ernest, he's like, he says something like, oh, I bet he makes a lot of moolah off that show. And he's like, you don't get rich doing a once-a-week children's program. You do it because you love it. And that kind of reveals the reason why he chooses him is because, he really has a passion for this kind of thing. And he feels like that would translate excellent over into being Santa Claus. And then Ernest and Santa run into the character Harmony Star. She's just a kid. who's running away from home. We see her at a restaurant. She bails on the check, and then she's running away, and then she happens to run into Ernest and Santa in the thing. And then she makes up some kind of bullshit story to them, saying that, oh, that's her mean uncle who forced her to work at the restaurant, and that he was keeping her in his basement and some shit like that. But of course, it's all bullshit. She ran out on the check,
which is pretty messed up.
That's messed up. Have you ever seen that in real life?
I have actually. Me and my mom went to Chili's or Applebee's, and we saw some people, bailing out of the check, and
Shit.
I saw, the waiters, they caught him and they just brought him back to the restaurant.
They caught him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that before too. And then it was like a whole group of people. They ordered like a shit ton of beers and food and whatnot. They fucking just ran out, and there was too many of them to catch. And what a bunch of assholes. Anywho, not to get too off topic here.
Let's get too off topic.
Yeah, so they run into Harmony Star, and like I said, she's making up some story, but and Ernest, of course there's no reason not to believe her, so he tells her in his John Wayne impression,
Well, not to worry, little lady. You're safe with us.
and I like that camera angle that they use. It's like they have like a really low camera angle, so it makes them look like awkward and creepy. And then she turns to the back seat, and then Santa's like, oh, he's Ernest, and I'm Santa Claus. And then Ernest has like this goofy, like childlike look on his face. Surprised? And she's like, no, not really. I wonder what's gone on in her life that she's not surprised by that. Anywho, you can tell she's weirded out, to say the least. Santa gets to his destination. He's dropping Santa off to see Joe Carruthers at the it's like a children's museum, right, in Orlando, and that's where he's doing like this his kids show from. His kids show is being canceled, and so that's why he thinks he would be perfect to transition him into the role of Santa Claus. But unfortunately, when Santa gets there, he doesn't have the moolah. He thought he had the money.
Mr. Funtime money, which is playtime money.
Yeah, because at one point he gave a child a gift it was like a Mr. Funtime play set, and he gave him a bunch of Mr. Funtime money, but it turns out he actually gave him his real money, and then he kept the fake money by accident. But I love the way Ernest says it. He's like, this is money from one Mr. Funtime. He always has a great way of delivering his lines. But in the spirit of Christmas, he gives Santa the ride for free, which later doesn't bode well for Ernest. He gets him fired, right? He gets him fired from his job.
Yep.
Because his boss is like, I told you not to give rides to just any random bum that you see in the street. He's like, this isn't a random bum. It's Santa Claus. And then, of course, he doesn't believe that shit, so he fires his ass, which is it's not very common. I mean, like, Ernest was the trash truck driver. He was literally dragging people on the back of his truck. He never got fired, so it's surprising to see Ernest get fired. Anywho, so Santa goes to talk to Joe about being the new Santa Claus, and we see the agent Marty Brock rolling up, trying to get Joe to join the latest movie called Santa's Sleigh, which is a play on words. Later we find out it's not exactly what we think, but
it's a horror movie.
Yeah, sleigh. Not being like a sleigh like that you'd ride on, but sleigh like in Kill. Apparently, it's like
terrorizing children on Christmas.
Yeah, when Santa hears the news like that, it's like a horror movie.
It pisses him off.
Yeah, it's about like aliens coming down to Earth and terrorizing children. He gets mad. That reminds me of that scene in Miracle on 34th Street where he bops the guy with his cane. It reminds me of that exactly. Something similar happens to. Because you got the agent is like pretty much the closest we get to having an antagonist in this movie, because he's like a sleazy big time guy. His license plate literally
big
says
deals.
Yeah, big deals, and then he's singing a version of Jingle Bells when he rolls up. He's like, jingle bells, checkbook swells, big deals all the way. And then he even he mistakes the mailman for a valet. He's like, hey, park it in some shade. Some shit. Very entitled guy. And so he's basically arguing back and forth with, well, not arguing, but he's trying to convince, what's his name?
Joe Carruthers?
Yeah, he's trying to convince Joe Carruthers to take part in this movie. He's like, this is a great opportunity. The guy who was the lead dropped out, and I can get you, an audition. This is great. And then, meanwhile, Santa's trying to convince Joe to be the new Santa Claus. So there's a little bit of conflict there. And eventually, the agent gets annoyed, and then he mishears him at first. He thinks that his name is Mr. Santos, but then no, it's Santa Claus. And then he sees an opportunity there. He thinks he's like at this point when this guy thinks he's Santa Claus, he thinks he's some old crazy guy. So to get him out of his hair, he has him he has him put in jail. I don't know why they put him in jail.
That's pretty fucked up.
It's like he did anything wrong, but he has him put in jail so he can get him out of his way. And therein lies a problem, because now you have Santa Claus in jail. Ernest, meanwhile, he takes the tree to Vern's house, and one of the most hilarious scenes ever.
Oh, Vern!
This is the only time in an Ernest movie where you see Vern appear. I mean, you don't see him physically, but it's from his point of view. It's like a first-person Vern point of view. But it's the only time Vern is actually in a scene with Ernest in any of the movies. Vern first slams the door on Ernest, but then Ernest barges in and fucks his shit up, man. He fucks up his house. I don't know what the fuck Ernest was thinking. Like, he literally goes in and like, he has good intentions, I guess, but then he starts like drinking his punch.
Party punch.
He's like, ooh, party punch, and he starts drinking, and then that's not even half of it. He starts ripping out his electrical. I guess he's trying to set up the Christmas lights or something, but he's like literally pulling electrical out of the walls, and
I got an idea.
It's ridiculous.
Cutters.
Yeah. He totally just fucked up Vern's house. I don't know how Ernest is not in jail yet. But that's, which ironically, that's the next movie. Ernest goes to jail. But it wasn't his fault. It was a switch up. Anywho, not to get too off topic here.
That's good. Too off topic.
Marty Brock, the like I said, he got annoyed by Santa. He's the agent, so he sends Santa to jail. And then there's a funny scene at the police station. They're taking Santa's fingerprints, and they notice that his fingerprints have like snowflakes embedded, like a snowflake pattern embedded in there. And then Ernest, meanwhile, when he's at Vern's house, like you said, he goes to get some bolt cutters out of his truck to fix Vern's house, and then he notices Santa's bag, and he opens it, and he sees like the glowing magical orbs in there, and he realizes that Santa is the real deal.
He's him.
And then, Harmony is doubtful about it. She's like, well, if this is Santa, then why doesn't he have a sleigh and reindeer? And then we cut to Chuck and Bobby again dealing with the flying reindeer. They're like, it could be aliens. Like they burst out of their box and they're like...
Latvian goats.
They're like, I know, right? And they're walking on the ceiling and shit. That was pretty funny. Little sad fact about the reindeer. Apparently they were flown in from Northern Ontario, Canada, to the film's production in Orlando, Florida. During filming, the production ran into trouble when the reindeer's first day on set was in 90
special effects.
It was in 95-degree heat, and the antlers on the reindeer began to shed, and they were literally falling off. And this is from I got this from IMDb. So I don't know how true this is, but this is sad if it's true. And it said literally their antlers were shedding and falling off, exposing bloody nubs. The reindeer makeup. They called people in to do makeup on the reindeers and give them prop antlers, but the reindeers weren't having it. Ultimately, they decided to refilm and reschedule the scenes to be shot in Nashville, Tennessee, 2 months later. So those poor reindeer were brought into this unnaturally unseasonable heat of Florida, and it caused their antlers to shed. Those poor reindeer. That's awful. the things people do for movies. They're way more conscious nowadays. Most of the time, they just do CGI animals now, which is way better. I mean, it doesn't look as good, but it's way better for the animals. They don't have to be abused like that. Anywho, Ernest starts pulling out items from the bag, just testing out the magic, and it's kind of cool. You pull out the orb, and I guess through Santa magic, it turns into whatever item whatever toy is going to be delivered to the kids. Back at the police station, the cop is trying to get Santa to tell him his real name, but he's like, "I told you, my name is Santa Claus." He's like, "Okay, we'll just go with John Doe then." And he's like, "What's your age?" He's like, 151. It's another bit of comedy that reminds me of Miracle on 34th Street. And then Ernest has to look for Santa because now he knows Santa's real, and so he's worried about him. He's like, "This could be the end of Christmas on this planet as we know it," because he has his he has his bag here. And what is he going to do without his magic bag? So he's going to have to go find Santa. And there's one funny part I like where he's like, when I see his frostiness, I'm going to ask him how he got into my house when I was a kid, because all they had was central heating. They didn't have a fireplace. So he imagined Santa like crawling around through the ducts in his house.
And I pictured him wandering around in there trying to find a way out, and finally turning himself into sort of this big blob and oozing through the vent covers.
I love that scene where he says ooze. He does like a thing with his hands. He squeezes his face through his hands, visualizing, giving us a little visual of what he imagined, Santa oozing through the vents.
A movie that keeps on giving the holiday season.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
It's funny.
The image of Santa oozing through the vents sticks with you.
Adult friendly.
So
a person who's a fan of Jim Barney will love this movie.
So he goes back to the TV station looking for Santa, so he can give him his bag. And then it's funny because the kids hear that he's looking for Santa Claus and they laugh at him, and he gets all offended. He's like, "Yuck it up! Santa just happens to be
a personal close friend of mine."
Yeah. So he's like, "Na na 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 na," he's like mocking the kids and shit. And then Ernest learns that Santa got busted, and so he's worried. And then Harmony, later on, you see Harmony's acting a little sketch. She's trying to wish for cash to come out of Santa's bag, but of course it's not working for her because she doesn't know how to wield Santa's magic. And then Erna rushes off to go and get Santa. He poses as some guy named Oscar Clementh. He says he's doing like a surprise visit at the prison. He's doing some kind of inspection, and he says that Harmony Star is the governor's niece, and that she's doing like a school report. That's why she's there. And so he goes in and tries to assess the situation, and he sees Santa there, and he's like, "Oh, who is this?" And then he's like, "I'm Santa Claus." And he's like, "You're putting this delusional man in here with the prisoners?
Ordinary hard criminals."
Yeah, and he's like, he's basically saying that his insanity is going to be infectious, and that he needs to take him to the crazy house right away. And so that's his excuse for getting him out of prison, and it works. Of course, Ernest knows how to do things right. And then
a partridge in a tree.
That's right. That was one of my favorite scenes. So while Santa's in prison, he gets all the prisoners to do a rendition of the 12 Days of Christmas.
Because he's famous. He's Santa Claus.
I love it. And then you hear someone from a far off prison cell, like Santa just like sticks his hand out of the jail cell, conducting him, and then you hear in the distance. I love that. That was hilarious. I'm glad you reminded me of that scene. But yeah, that was great. And then Santa reveals that the Christmas magic is running out. He needs to pass his powers to Joe, or else Christmas could go kaput. So Ernest dresses up as another one of his famous characters that we saw in previous Ernest movies. Auntie Nelda, the old lady. He goes posing as the mom of the agent. This is the second time we see Ernest dress up as Auntie Nelda, and he would play her for most of the series up until Ernest Goes to Africa in 1997. Another fun fact from IMDb. He goes to the talent agency. Like I said, he poses as Marty Brock's mom, talking shit about him, saying how that's her least favorite son and whatnot. And he's just there to get information about Joe so he can find the whereabouts of Joe Carruthers. I like that scene when he's first walking up to the building. Like he's in character even though no one's around. Like he's walking up the steps and he's saying in the Auntie Nelda voice, he's like, "These steps might as well be Mount Everest." I love that character. What do you think about it?
Oh, it is funny. Talk about slapstick comedy.
Definitely. And then Santa has a heartfelt conversation with Harmony. The actress who plays Harmony, she has like a lot of good emotional moments. She's a pretty good actress. He's like, "Your mother must be worried about you." He's like, "You've been gone for a month now." He's like, "That's a long time for a girl your age to be out on her own." And she's like, "Well, you know what? Everyone thinks I'm really young, but I'm really not." And she's lying. She's trying to make herself out to be older than she is. And he's like, "Oh, my mistake. I mixed you up with someone whose parents had some problems last year and then got so wrapped up in themselves that they forgot that she needed a little attention too." And then that hit home for her because that's, Coach Santa knows everything that's going on. And it kind of caught her off guard, and she lies. She tries to brush it off. She's like, no, I don't know anyone like that. She's like, it sounds to me like though whoever this is, she ought to wise up to the way things are and just start looking out for herself, But you could tell through her acting that she, Santa's words really like hit her hard. I thought that was some good emotional moments with her, right?
Oh yes, very very emotional moments, but
yeah,
excellent movie.
Yeah, and then later we see Bobby and his brother again. They pull out an umbrella, and he's like, "Better safe than sorry." They're worried.
Better safe than sorry.
They're worried that the reindeers are going to shit on them.
I know I'm a cautious man, but better safe than sorry.
Yeah. Oh man, imagine the reindeers just shitting all over him. Oh, okay. And then Ernest poses as a snake wrangler because he wants to sneak in on the movie set.
We're poison snakes.
I love that hick man that he plays. It's great. And a little fun fact on the side of the pickup truck that Ernest is driving, it says Apopka Snakes. And that's actually where the executive producer is from, Joseph Ackerman. Apparently went to a high school in Apopka, Florida, a city north of Orlando where most of the filming was done. So it's a little reference to that. And then there's not really snakes in the back of the truck. It's just Santa Claus. He's hiding underneath a sheet with a bunch of rubber hoses, and then he's shaking a rattle. And then Ernest is like hitting the sheet with the stick, pretending like there's live snakes back there. He successfully sneaks Santa on set to see Joe. I like that part where Santa sees those hot Santa ladies, and dressed in the Christmas outfits.
He's like,
he twiddles his beard at them. I thought that was funny. And then he runs into someone dressed as Santa, and it stops him dead in his tracks for a little bit, and he just kind of stares at him. I thought that was pretty funny. And that's when Santa walks in on Santa's sleigh. He sees that it's a horror movie. He's appalled that someone would make such a movie like that. That's when Santa bops the director on the nose. It reminded me of Miracle on 34th Street.
The best reference ever.
Yeah. And then Joe says, "You know what? I better talk to this guy. He seems like he really wants to talk to me." And then I think is it like the director or like the agent? He's like, "What are you going to talk to him about? Flying reindeer?" And then we cut again to Bobby and his brother. They're talking with animal control. They're trying to get animal control to take care of the reindeer. And then they're freaked the fuck out because they see reindeer walking on the roof. And then they get scared the shit out of, and they're like, "You know what? That's not us. We don't handle shit like this. You got to call air traffic control." I thought that was funny. Santa tells Joe about being Santa, and then Joe seems hesitant. Of course, it's like he doesn't know if this is true or not. Like, what are you supposed to believe, that this guy's really Santa Claus? He's hesitant about being able to take on the role of Santa Claus. Harmony is still trying to steal shit out of the bag. And Ernest, while he's at the movie set, so there's some people with some real snakes. They dump him in the back of his truck, and he has like that epic gross out face. He always has like the most epic reactions. I love it. And then later on, you can see him, he's talking with Santa, and he's like dumping out the snakes on the side of the road. Santa, and he's talking with Ernest, saying that he needs to talk to Joe again. Because he wasn't able to convince him the first time. There's one scene where Joe is saying to Santa that he should continue on, and if not, he tells him that like the torch will flicker out if he doesn't pass it over to him. So this is like really serious. Like this is the part where they need to save Christmas. This is where the Save Christmas and Ernest Save Christmas is from. Later on, when Ernest and Santa They're leaving the movie set. They're heading home to go grab Santa's magic bag, and Harmony's still at Ernest's place, trying to steal shit from the bag. She pulled out a bunch of kids' toys that she has nothing that no purpose for, and so she's trying to hide them around the room to make it look like she didn't touch Santa's bag. And she's like hiding like stuffed animals underneath the couch, and she hides like a slinky in the lamp or whatever. And then they get home, and then Ernest suspects something's wrong. He thinks that Harmony stole the items in the bag. He's like, call it a fifth sense or a flash of intermission. I never noticed. I never noticed he said this before, but he said, I have a feeling deep down in the heart of my bottom. Because he meant to say in the bottom of my heart. But he said, I have a feeling deep down in the heart of my bottom.
That was disgusting.
Yeah. But then they check, and then the orbs are still there in the bag, because I don't know if they're like self-regenerating or whatever. But then Santa's like, you know what? Trust people. He's like, it'll, it's I forget exactly what Santa says, but he's like, trust people. It helps more than it hurts, or something like that. But then later on, Ernest was right about the feeling in the heart of his bottom, because Harmony, when she's taking Santa's sack to the truck,
Santa has a bag of feathers.
she switches it out. Yeah, she puts a bag of feathers in the back of the truck, and then she keeps Santa's real bag with her, and she plans on stealing it. And she makes up some bullshit story again. Like, she's like, oh, my cousin bought me some clothes. I need to go try them on, so I can't go with you guys. And so she takes the real Santa's bag, sneaks it out, and she plans on going to the bus station and taking off with it. And then later...
God is a failure to accumulate.
Yeah, that was funny earlier in the movie. And then so Ernest goes to take Santa to Joe's house so he can have one more talk with them. And then when they get there to Santa's chagrin, Joe shaved off his beard. He's like, why did you shave your beard off? And of course it was for the role. And that's when Joe says, you know what, I can't take this. I can't take the job as Santa. And then Santa's trying to convince him that he's got to do it, and he's like, well, how am I supposed to believe you? Like, and then I think at some point, like, Santa hands him his magic sack, right? And he's like, "What? Are you trying to give me a bag filled with feathers? Like what's going on here?" And then Santa's trying to explain, "Yeah, I know it's a bag of feathers. Like, my real bag was stolen." And then Joe's like, "I have an appointment with people who want to give me more than just a bag of feathers." So it looks like Santa's not going to be able to save Christmas, man. And Ernest's not going to be able to save Christmas. Everything's not lining up in their favor. But yes, we do see some elves show up, some helper elves, not helper elms. Anyway, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. So Harmony's at the train station or the bus station, ready to leave town. She's trying to get as far away as she can with that bag, and she sees a family, and then this dumbass, annoying brother arguing with his sister about saying, Santa's not real, and blah blah blah. And then it kind of gets to Harmony, and then she feels the need to defend the little girl's belief in Santa, because she now knows Santa's real. And this kind of leads to her epiphany that she has in turning around once and for all. Like you said, the elves show up at the airport, and then the same guy that checked Santa's passport earlier looks at their passport, and it says that they're helper elves, and he's like, he's just too tired to care. He's like, why not? It's Christmas, and he stamps it and whatnot. And then Ernest actually makes it to the airport to pick up the reindeer, but they won't release him because he's like, are you helper elms? And he's like, no, I'm Ernest. And he's like, sorry, I can't release it. You have to be helper elms. And then
Ernest, we got some real questions, and you better have some real answer.
Yeah. And then finally the elves show up, and then they're like, no, it's helper elves. And they're like, do you have... Yeah, and they're like...
helper elves.
Yeah, he's like, do you have some identification? And they pull off their disguises. They're wearing like sunglasses and hats to disguise their elfness. And they pull off their disguise, and then they show their pointy ears, and they're like, ta-da! And he's like, I think that's good enough. So they're successful in getting the reindeer and the sleigh. So Ernest takes it in the truck, and he's trying to get it to Santa Claus. Santa's at the children's museum. trying to wait for Joe because he told him, he's like, you got to be here, man. You got to launch off at 7 or else it's going to be too late. And you know, by the time you get those toys out, it's going to be daylight, you know, and the magic's going to run out. So you got to be here at this time. So he's hoping he's going to show up. Meanwhile, Ernest is trying to get the sleigh and the reindeer over there. And then we go back to Harmony Star. That's when she chimes in with the family, with the boy saying that Santa's not real. She's you know what, Santa's real. Where do you get off on telling her that Santa's not real? You know how Santa's real? Like, I have his magic bag. And then the little girl's like, well, if that's Santa's bag, then why do you have it? And it kind of clicks with her that, oh shit, you know, maybe I need to get this bag back to Santa Claus. So that gets her headed back on the right path. Ernest takes off on the sleigh. That's his only way he can get the sleigh on time over to the Children's Museum. So he decides that he's going to wield the sleigh. So he gets all the reindeer hooked up, and there's an ongoing gag where he doesn't. I don't want to miss my rendezvous with destiny. Yeah, there's an ongoing gag where he doesn't know Blitzen's name, so he has to say all the
on Donner, on Comet, on Cupid, on on Blitzen.
He keeps calling him Blister or something like that. And then like, no, it's Blitzen. He's like, oh yeah, Blitzen. And then it activates the sleigh with all the reindeer. And he goes, you know, flying off in the sleigh. But he doesn't know how to fly it. So he's just like going everywhere. Like he's circling around the earth and he's flying wildly and out of control. And then the elves are like, you're going to kill us. And he's like, don't worry, my little gherkin buddies. But, He cannot wield the sleigh. He does not have the magic touch. There's one point where he's like even like circling around the earth like Superman, like a bereaved Superman trying to save Lois. There's one point where he goes fucking light speed. I love that scene. Like he literally goes light. He looks like the Millennium Falcon. Like you see the stars, like just like in Star Wars, the stars stretch and he goes fucking light speed. And then he ends up in the atmosphere, just like floating in the air. And then eventually he almost crashes back to Earth.
Ho ho ho! Merry Christmas.
Meanwhile, yeah, I know. Right? Meanwhile, Santa's talking to the receptionist that was at the Children's Museum. And then she's asking if he found his sack because earlier he was. That's when he realized that his sack was missing. He was talking to the receptionist about it. She's like, "Oh, have you found your sack?" He's like, "Yeah, a girl named Pamela Trenton took it."
I wonder if that little girl is still there. I wonder if that child is still there.
Yeah, you can tell he really cares because he's like, you know, she was a shy but smart little girl.
Caring human being, caring Santa.
Yeah,
almost brought a tear to my eye.
Oh yeah, and then we see Joe. You know, he still hasn't decided to be Santa. At this point, he's still just, you know, kind of stuck on the fact that he doesn't want to be Santa Claus. He doesn't quite believe what he's hearing. And then at this point, when Ernest is flying crazily around the earth on the sleigh, Joe is in the business meeting to be in the Santa sleigh movies. And then he looks out the window and he sees Ernest flying around.
Merry Christmas, everybody!
Yeah, he sees Ernest flying around on the sleigh, and then he realizes, oh shit, this might be real. Like, Santa's real. I don't think he sees Ernest on the sleigh. I think he just sees Santa's sleigh flying around, and he's like, yeah, and that's when he yells out, Merry Christmas, everybody, and then he goes,
Merry Christmas, everybody!
And he realizes he has to be Santa. Like, this is everything that he's been told was real, and it's up to him to save Christmas. And it's up to Ernest to save Christmas. And so he goes rushing out of the meeting to fulfill his destiny. This is where it gets exciting, man. We're at the conclusion of the movie, man. It's funny. There's one point where they scramble some jets to chase the sleigh. It reminds me of of course, this is before that, but Nightmare Before Christmas. The same thing happens. They scramble some jets and they blow Jack Skellington out of the sky. So the same thing almost happens, but luckily Ernest, he did some invasive maneuvers and he goes underneath the radar. He tells him, hang on to your leer hose and razor ears. We're going to go drop under the radar. And he flies down like to ground level, and then he flies through a toll gate and then scares the toll booth operator half to death. Yeah. And then we cut back to Harmony. She's rushing to deliver the sack. The receptionist said, I haven't believed in Santa since... oh yeah, and then later we cut back to Later, we cut back to Harmony. She's rushing off to deliver the sack. Santa's still talking with the receptionist. And then she's like, oh, I haven't believed in Santa since. And then Santa chimes in. He's like, since January 13th, 1931, when your smart aleck sister thought it was time to tell you the quote unquote truth, showing that, he's the Santa, he's the real Santa, and he knows everything. He knows when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. And he knows when your smart aleck sister thought it was time to tell you the quote unquote truth. Anywho, moving on. Harmony rushes up to Santa with tears in her eyes, begging for forgiveness, and he welcomes her back with a hug. And he's like, he's Santa. He's willing to forgive and forget. Harmony says, I got to thinking about you and Ernest and other things, and I'm getting stuff together in my life, and I decided to call my mom. And then Santa's like, I bet she was worried, and then she's like, yeah, especially when I told her who I was with. Imagine telling your mom that. Yeah, I've been hanging out with Santa Claus and some guy named Ernest. Anyway, Joe pulls up to the museum and he's like, is the job still available? And then Santa, he doesn't look too happy at first, but it's just a bluff. He's like, for the right man it is. And he shakes his hand. And then at this point, they're like, where's the sleigh? And then Santa's like, oh yeah, where is the sleigh? And that's when Ernest is just still zipping around, and then finally he crashes back down to earth, and then luckily he's able to hit the brakes just in time before he hits the ground, and then he turns to the camera and he's like,
Air brakes.
yeah, exactly. And then the elves are like, oh, we told him not to. We told him not to do it. It wasn't a good idea. And then Santa's like, oh, no, that was brilliant. And then
that was a great idea.
Yeah. And they change their story real quick. And then they're saying their goodbyes because Harmony is about to go back to meet her parents. And of course, it's they've grown attached to her. So Ernest is you can tell he's a little sad. He gets that little kid
keep your nose clean, little lady.
Yeah, he does his John Wayne impression again.
Miss you.
And then Joe offers, and there's that scene where after he does the handshake, Santa's power is transferred to Joe. It looks pretty good. You see this blue energy wraps around him, and he's wearing full Santa gear. He has this full Santa beard and everything like that. He looks great. And then Joe actually offers Ernest the flying job for the night. He's like, hey, I haven't figured out how to work this thing, and it looks like you already figured it out. He's like, he asks Santa, he's like, would it be wrong to have a pilot with me on this flight? And he's like, I don't see why not. And then and he's like, after all, and then this is a callback to the beginning of the movie, but he's like, after all, I am Ernest P. Worrell, thrill driver, because when he was driving the cab like a nutcase, he yelled out, thrill driver. And then he's back to being Ernest P. Worrell, thrill driver. And then they make Harmony star the honorary elf of the night. So they go and fly off into the night, delivering presents to the kids around the world. And it's at this point we could say Ernest has officially saved Christmas. Lovely, lovely movie. A little heartfelt message about,
I got tears in my eyes when Santa hugged Harmony's star. It was just so.
Yeah, that was a great
touching.
Scene. Wonderful
Pamela
movie.
Pamela Trenton.
And then Mary Morrissey, who is the receptionist, she formally introduces herself to Santa, who reveals his real name is Seth Applegate, and it's implied that they're going to become an item now. So he's going to live out the rest of his human life. And then we're left with the scene of the sleigh flying around. And then on the screen it says, Merry Christmas to all.
Merry Christmas.
And to all a good night. And it says, underneath it says, you know what I mean? And then the last thing we see is the two brothers at the end work at the airport. And then there's another crate that shows up. And lo and behold, the Easter Bunny's ears pop out. It's almost like teasing a sequel, but it's not really. I think it's just a gag. I don't think they intended to make an Easter movie, but I thought that was a little funny gag at the end. Wonderful, wonderful movie. I have a little bit more trivia before we wrap it up. In the first draft of the film, Ernest was going to take over the Santa role. I think I said that already. But yeah, and originally they were going to make him Santa Claus instead of Joe Carruthers. I think that would have been cool to see the Ernest version of Santa. But Disney
Yep.
didn't want that to happen. They thought, who in the hell would give Ernest the Santa role? I would love Ernest Santa. That'd be great. Imagine seeing him with an epic beard.
And de-aged Jim Varney. That would be badass.
De-aged. They didn't have that technology back then.
They do now.
During filming, Disney was at war with the Teamsters Union, so there was like picketing during the production, and a lot of times when John Cherry yelled out "action," they would shoot off firecrackers and stuff. This is the first union protest at a film production in Orlando, Florida, where the movie was being shot. And then there's this weird little bit of trivia. I don't know what they're implying by this, but it says John Cherry had assigned someone to keep Noelle Parker, who played Harmony Starr, away from the crew members as she was a bit too friendly, and it says in quotation marks. I don't know what the fuck that means. I don't want to know. But that was from IMDb. I didn't make this shit up. For all I know, they're making this shit up because I think almost like Wikipedia, people could just post random shit on IMDb. So take it with a grain of salt. But this wraps up our discussion on Ernest Saves Christmas. Well,
Yep.
out of 10, what would you rate this movie?
I rated 10 out of 10.
You know what? I wouldn't disagree with you on that. I would say it's a good. Ranking it amongst the other Ernest movies, I would say it's a good solid
I would actually give it a high rental to those who haven't actually seen
8.5 out of 10. Very good movie.
Very great movie, and of course,
Very great Christmas movie.
thank you for watching this podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
We wish you happy holidays.
We were going to
good
talk about
cheer.
some other Christmas movies, but we didn't get around to it. But of course, give some
And of course-
honorable talks to Christmas Story, which we watch
appreciate it.
every year. What are some other Christmas movies you watch?
Miracle on 34th Street.
I love The Grinch. We actually filmed the Grinch episode that would probably never see the light of day. Not that it was bad. It just, I don't know. I didn't feel a good vibe about it. So, but maybe I'll post it up somewhere as a bonus episode or something like that.
Maybe onto our podcast.
What are some other Christmas movies we like? We talked about Miracle on 34th Street.
The Santa Claus with Tim Allen.
Santa Claus. That one's okay. I didn't really grow up watching it. I saw Jack Frost for the first time. It was pretty freaky. And of course,
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer cartoon.
oh yeah, I love those
Rudolph
holiday
the
specials. The
Red-Nosed
Rankin Bass.
Reindeer
Rankin
had a
Bass.
very shiny nose.
I don't know if that's
and
copyrighted.
it
I
never saw
don't know if we could sing too
him.
much of that, but thank you for joining us on this Christmas episode of The Men Who Watch Movies. We had a
Merry
great
Christmas,
time.
everyone.
Make sure to check us out on Twitter
God bless.
at Men Watch Movies. Make sure to check us out on Instagram at Men Watch Movies. We also have a Facebook page. I believe it's also at Men Watch Movies. We hope to see you again next week. We're going to try and get out our last episode before the end of the year. We're going to do a recap of our podcast thus far. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you had a wonderful time. My name is Alec.
And my name's DJ the Movie Man Wagner, also known as the COE of the Men Who Watch Movies. And here with me is the Vice President of Editing. Would you give a big movie
I love the
man?
new title.
Welcome to El Castrejón.
Welcome to me.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
And thank
God
you.
bless us, everyone.
Merry Christmas and happy holidays. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy Hanukkah. Whatever you celebrate, we celebrate with you. Thank you for joining us.
Holidays.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.
Movie
And a Happy New Year.
fans.